So it's my pleasure to introduce our next reader, Michele Herman. Michele writes fiction, essays, and a new edition, poetry. Never in her wildest dreams did she imagine that her first book would be poems, but there it is. Her chapbook, Victory Boulevard, which is for sale back there, was just published by Finishing Line Press. She also has a novel currently in search of an agent and has published many short stories and essays. Michele loves teaching Level 1 online at TheWriterStudio, which she's been doing for about 13 years, and Memoir Online, which is new this year. She has won or placed in quite a few contests. She just learned yesterday that she won for Best Column in the New York Press Association Better Newspaper Contest. She was also a semifinalist for the 2016 Raymond Carver Prize and is a two-time winner of the Willis Barnstone Translation Prize for her new translations of Jacques Brel songs. She also does developmental editing and writes an occasional column for The Villager. Please welcome Michele.
It's really nice to see so many old friends, new friends, colleagues, and just thinking about how deep the roots are with so many of us in this room. All the years we sat around conference tables together. It's very nice. So this is the first time I'm reading poems at a TheWriterStudio reading, which is very exciting. I'm going to start with one poem and then I'll talk a little bit about my book. Okay, this is called The Human Condition at the CVS. This friend of mine was walking the aisles while waiting for her prescription for a condition that didn't exist until recently and had no stigma attached to it. No stigma at all. And every 2 minutes, a high-pitched squeal caused by some unseen piece of technology was joined by a louder, lower-pitched squeal. The magazine said there'd been another breach, and the alt-right was ascendant, and Bruce was Caitlin, and Adele was having trouble getting through during the lulls between squeals. And my friend says to the pharmacist, "Isn't the squeal driving you nuts?" And he shrugs and says, "I hardly notice it anymore." And she says, "I don't need a bag, thanks, because the prescription is already in a bag," with stapled warnings flapping like tail feathers as he hands it to her. It's a medication for a condition that only recently rose to the level of the DSM. The drugs in the drugstore have all been pushed to the rear to make room for the cereal and the dairy case and the snack aisle. And back here, the remedies are for things that grow too much or don't grow enough or grow in a vexing way. And all the earplugs come in packs of 32. The prescription counter is surrounded by products made of wide bands of black elastic and pill sorters as big as ice cube trays. And as she roams the aisles of fibromyalgia relief and Zyrtec and Lactaid and other products that didn't exist until recently, my friend, she tells the druggist, "I have a plan, but it doesn't cover this." Okay, now I'm going to read a couple of poems from the book, which is called Victory Boulevard. That's a street on Staten Island. Both my parents grew up there. It's near where my mother grew up. You know how we used to say in the TheWriterStudio years ago, don't write about your mother? I got past that finally. This is called In the Pale Green Sewing Room. Oh, and I have to tell you one other thing. The galleys for this came shortly before the holidays this past year. And then on Christmas morning, 3 a.m., I got a call from my mother's assisted living. My mother had died. She was very ready. So it came in the window when I was able to still correct the galleys. So I was able to put a dedication to her with her birth and death dates, which I wasn't expecting was going to happen. So this is called In the Pale Green Sewing Room. My mother's sewing room had pale green walls and faced the undemanding woods. Headless dress form, a tin of Swiss pins, a dedicated ironing board. She couldn't wait for us to leave for school so she could make our clothes in peace, every seam meticulous. Her buttonholes were made to withstand wars. I guess we show our love in whatever way we can. Other mothers told their daughters, "Go forth, fearless, trust your heart." Mine said, Set your zipper flush and take the time to press your darts. It takes patience and time for an armhole to accept its sleeve with grace, as any seamstress knows. Likewise, I'm trying to ease my mother into a poem. She mothered strictly in prose. Okay. And so here's a poem from the perspective of a mother, and it's called What to Expect. And I know there's a couple of people here who were just telling me about their kids or almost kids who are heading off to college next year. So this goes out to you. What to expect. At first, you sign on as a wife, and then you give away your life, fertilizing a speck of an egg that you incubate for nearly a year, then give birth to an infant who is adorable for reasons which could be called the original bait and switch. How they scream before they learn to latch when you're so tired that you want to retch. But you love them so that you hold them up by their thumb-like feet and sniff their bum and cavil at their poop's sweet buttermilk smell. You're always pulling up drawers that droop, staying up for a night of croup. Then they toddle away and practice no all day, though they couldn't tell you why. They're simply programmed to defy. They insist that they will feed themselves, but fling the food against the shelves. They grow sweet and languid in latency, a blissful phase that's hormone-free, with the duration of a coffee break, before they find their potency. It's hard to tell which way they'll go. Some teens burst with cheer and read King Lear and travel to Zaire. Some get stuck and fail to gel while burrowing deep inside their shell. Others reek of pot and beer and cigarettes that numb the fear. At 13, they'll look you in the eye. I swear, they say, before they lie. How you miss having hair to braid and manning stands of lemonade. Now you toss, considering a sleeping aid, wishing they could be altered and spayed. And now you second guess as you tiptoe through the teenage mess. You who swore you'd never snoop, now stoop to rooting through the chicken coop of clothing strewn across the floor, despite the threats, despite the debts your offspring owe, the keep out sign taped to the door. How you try to hold your tongue as you silently scream at the top of your lungs while standing on used jockey shorts and permission slips from last year's sports. You wish your husband listened more while you plug your ears to his chainsaw snore. And then one day you pack them up with plastic bins and a coffee cup and wave goodbye from your car at the curb and drive back home to your empty burb, inconsolable as that infant you tried to calm, the one rooting wildly for his mom. And I have one more. And this is called To My Latvian Great-Grandmother. It's dated Friday, June 26, 2015. I'll tell you a little bit about how this one came to be. Many things happened around that time in my life and in the life of this country. And I couldn't figure out a good way to talk about any of it without sounding stilted or preachy. And then I happened to meet a woman who is from Latvia, near the place where I happened to know my great-grandmother was from. I had about 5 facts about my great-grandmother, and somehow addressing the poem to her solved the problem. So, to my Latvian great-grandmother, June 26, 2015. Dear Bluma, I am writing to thank you for your sacrifices, for I am your great American granddaughter, and today is a hopeful day here in the United States of America. Aside from ceaseless labor, I imagine they expected little of a girl like you in Mitau in the Duchy of Kurland, settled by Teutonic Knights, but taken under Russian control in 1872, when you, great Bubby, were born. I know they didn't teach you to read, or let you vote, or choose your mate. But today, I'm thinking about others in Mitau, for whom life may have been harder still. Bubby, did you have a confirmed village bachelor, or maybe a pair of spinsters living on the fringe of town? And did a whisper follow them whenever they dared walk through the shtetl square? Fegele, Fegele, Bubby, did you ever see an African with black skin and hear a different, ugly Yiddish whisper close behind? And when the Cossacks came to town, did an ugly whisper sometimes follow you, too? Well, please sit down, because I want you to know that whatever happened in Mitau, today, the highest court of our land granted homosexuals the right to marry. Today, Great Bubby, was also my 5th of 20 days of grand jury duty in the unified court system here in downtown New York County, where in our jury room, beside my small Jewish self, sits a man who, on our breaks, reads on an electronic book called a Kindle in lovely Arabic script. And on my other side sits an African-American woman who is an attorney. And in the row behind us, 2 women with 2 strong accents have linked arms in fast friendship, a shy young Asian and a Jamaican grandma. They taught me to read, Bubby. They taught me well. So I can tell you about our African-American president who gave 2 speeches today. One, a eulogy for a pastor slain in his sanctuary by the kind of hatred bred by ignorance, which may be the only kind. The other speech commemorated the ruling on what we call gay marriage, the ruling that, frankly, seemed just as unimaginable to most of us as it must seem to you. Today, the president said our union is a little more perfect. On day 1, Kevin, the warden of our jury room, gave us a tour of our corner of the criminal court. Here are the vending machines that sell Pepsi products, he joked. The ones that sell Coca-Cola products are segregated at the far end of the hall. And I laughed, but also despaired for my nation, as I so often do. And I know you cannot begin to understand what I'm telling you. But maybe it's true after all, Great Bubby, what our slain leader King said, invoking the words of an American Unitarian Transcendentalist Abolitionist Reverend 14 years before you were born. The arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Every day when Kevin lets his jurors go, I walk from the courthouse to my parked bicycle, unencumbered by ankle chains or even ankle-length skirts. And Bubby, no whispers ever follow me. And today I can almost believe the day will come when no whispers will follow anyone. Thank you.